Hey, babe, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing well. So it's been a while. We have been busy living life, and we haven't done an episode in a couple of months. And so we're back at it, and we'll talk about this a little later, but we've revamped how we're doing Loving Our 25 to Life. But before we get started, I think we should probably just open up with a word of prayer so we can say the right things. How about that?
I agree.
Father, thank you for this day you've given us. Thank you for the opportunity to just come to a platform like this and speak our minds and just speak your truth. Father, let the words that come out of our mouths be about glorifying your kingdom and not about any kind of agenda that we have or any kind of message that we want, but the message that you want. So I ask all this in your name. Amen.
Welcome to Loving Our 25 to Life. I'm Heather.
And I'm Bo. Together we've been married over 25 years.
Yeah, baby!
And this is where we talk about life, love, and all the adventures we have had along the way.
Oh, wow.
Whether we're sharing stories from our marriage or taking you along one of our trips, we're here to reflect on how we've made it this far and where we are headed next.
So grab a seat, settle in, and let's dive into another episode of Loving Our 25 to Life.
So I'm not really sure what happened. I think, like you said, life just kind of got away from us. The summer was busy. We've had a lot of life events happen. But I'm excited for this kind of reboot thing that we're doing because we kind of decided separately but together. We'll tell that story in a minute. It was totally a God thing, but that we want the podcast to be more about God and what he does for us every day, as well as what he's done for us in the past, and less about just our story, because without God, we wouldn't have a story. And so about 8 months ago, I just felt like God pulling me to do some sort of ministry, whether it be a Facebook page or just some kind of encouragement for women. Because I just I feel like I'm just in a stage of life where I can encourage other women because, my kids are grown and gone kind of on their own. And I know a lot of women around my age still have young ones, and life is just hard right now. And so God had kind of put that in my heart, stirring in my soul, and I kept kind of squashing it down. I had done a few things to start, and then every time I did, I'd get busy and it would stop. But then on September 10th, when all that happened, God really was like, you need to do this now. And I kept seeing all these things of people saying that, Charlie Kirk died speaking for Christ, and I need to quit being so lackadaisical in my own walk with Christ. And so I started digging deeper into the word and kind of praying about, God, what do you want me to do? So about a week ago, Bo and I were sitting in our chairs just watching TV like we do almost every night. And he paused it, and we just started talking about stuff in general, the day and whatever. And then he started talking about what God was telling him as far as, since all that happened, he just felt like he was being drawn to do more Christ-centered things instead of just things for himself, and kind of backing off the things like the creative stuff he does for himself and focusing more on what can we do to tell people about what God does for us on the daily as well as in the past. And I was just sitting there listening. I couldn't talk because I was just thinking that what he was saying was exactly what God had been telling me over the last several months, but especially in the last 2 weeks. And so I told Bo, and I said, I feel the same way. And I told him, I hadn't even told him about, what God told me 6 or 8 months ago. He wanted me to reach out to women and be encouraging and minister and all that. And so we decided to revamp our podcast and still have all the things like 25 to Life, but do more with it. Like he's going to start doing, and he's already done a few that we're going to post later, but some little inspirational videos. And I'm going to start on my TikTok channel doing things called God Winks, and just talking specifically about things that God does for me. Because I feel like during any day, no matter how awful your day's going, if you look hard enough, you can see where God's working. And so I've started trying to be more aware of that, I guess. And so my TikTok channel eventually will just have that kind of thing for myself as well as for us together.
Yeah. And so I think you're exactly right. I think and I don't want this episode to necessarily be all about Charlie Kirk or anything, but basically what it did for me is it made me realize that I'm not doing nearly what I could be doing. I'm not nearly spending my time putting out the right messages. And so actually before this event even started, I had really started wanting to, I didn't know what it was, but I'd really wanted to start using my creative juices for spreading a different message. And I didn't know what that meant. And so after all this happened, and after we had decided that we're going to kind of get back in this and we're going to do it the way that we're going to do it this way, I stumbled across this video, and I can't think of the guy's name right now, but he runs a company called Wonder Hunt, and basically his whole message is about telling stories and how the church and Christianity, we need to get back into telling stories. And he cites basically the fact that Jesus was a storyteller, and he would tell stories to get his point across, and the fact that we don't remember facts, but we remember stories, and that's the mark of a good speaker, somebody who has a good story to tell. And so as I was watching some of this guy's videos and listened to some of his messages talking about storytelling, it hit me that that's what God was pushing me towards. And for those of you that know me, know Heather, we're in Kentucky because I came here so we could start working on, I could do some stuff in the bourbon industry. I could tell bourbon stories, and I feel like I do a good job of that. And I'm not going to necessarily stop doing that because I feel like there's bourbon centric stories that can apply to this, believe it or not. But I really wanted to use my gifts and talents to just start telling stories and helping spread the message through story. And so that's kind of where I'm at right now. But sitting there talking to Heather, talking to you that night, and I was saying that God's just got something in store for me. I don't really know what it is, but it's kind of like this. And then for you to go, he's been working on me the exact same way. I think this is a pretty cool story. So what we've been doing lately is every week, usually on Monday night or Tuesday night, we will get together and watch Josh Howerton. Is that his name?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
At
He's
Lake Point?
Lake Point in Texas somewhere.
Yeah. So, and also apparently he's a friend of Trey Fuller.
Trey, if you're listening to this, shout out to you, bud. Name dropping.
Yeah. So apparently he's a friend of Trey Fuller. But anyway, we were listening to him, and last night we were listening to one of his sermons, and he talked about how he was talking about prophecy, and he was talking about how if God puts a message in your heart to give to somebody else, he's always going to give them the receptors. The receptors, yeah, the ability to receive that message. And a lot of times, he's going to put those same feelings and same motivations. And so listening to him tell that story, I thought that was so cool that you and I were sitting there that night talking, and it basically came down to, this is what I'm thinking. And you were like, literally, God's telling me the same thing. And we hadn't talked. And I will say this, I'm still a little bitter about this. God has done that to us in the past where, like, I don't know if anybody really knows this, but maybe
it's around 2016 or
2017, God really was working on me and you at the same time to go into the mission field. And I just thought that really meant kind of give up everything and go be a missionary. And so we literally tried those avenues. We looked at Africa, we looked at Mexico, we looked at all these other places. And it seemed like when we were willing to say, let's do this thing, let's sell our house, let's get rid of our kids, no, just kidding. But like, it just seemed like when we were at that point, everywhere we turned, it was like a shut door. And so I was just like, okay, God, why would you literally put that on me, put that on Heather, and then not give us an opportunity? However, 10 years later almost, I'm starting to realize that maybe it wasn't about going to Africa. It wasn't about going to Mexico. It was about using the gifts that we have to tell the stories now. And I've told you this, I'm not the guy, and I never will be the guy that's going to go door to door, knocking on the door and what, but I'm not that guy, but I am the guy that I'd love to tell stories through video or through podcast or through whatever means. And so if it means taking a little bit of time away from other things like my bourbon stuff that I have going on or whatever, and devoting more time to that, that's kind of, I think, where we are right now.
Yeah. So if you go on our social medias, you'll start seeing these videos that we've come up with, and some of them will be funny and lighthearted, and some of them are some serious stuff that we've been through that we never would have gotten through had it not been for God, intervening. And I don't know. I just don't believe, I never have believed in coincidences or fate or whatever. I think that God puts thoughts and motivations in us. And I absolutely think we have the option to say yes or no. But for me, anytime I know for a fact God's been telling me to do something and I don't do it, there's always this unsettledness in my spirit. And I just, ever since Bo and I talked a week or so ago, I've just had this just uplifting in my spirit to where I'm excited about where we're going with this. And we also know that any time in the past we have wanted to do things for Christ and all that, then things start getting in the way. For example, today has been a very frustrating day for Bo. He works from home, and our internet has been going in and out all day long, which it hardly ever does. In fact, when's the last time the internet went out?
We've been here 5 years, and we had some trouble getting it set up and going the first month we were here. And ever since then, it hasn't gone out but maybe once or twice for a 5 or 10 minute period. And today it went out probably 15 times.
Right. So another thing that we've started doing, I used to do all the time and I got away from it, is I try to view everything in a spiritual warfare type mindset. Like even like going to work, if I'm in a good mood and I'm excited to go to work, and then I get there and the very first thing I'm hit in the face with a difficult patient or difficult coworker or whatever, I'm trying to look in the spiritual realm where that person or that thing is not what's trying to get at me. It's Satan and his demonic forces. And I don't want y'all to think that I'm sitting here talking to demons or whatever, but I do believe that there are things that will get in your way when you're determined to do something right. So, I mean, just think about a time in your life when you wanted to do a certain good thing for somebody and maybe something blocked you or somebody blocked you. It wasn't that person. I mean, it was that person, but it was what was behind that person. And I think that's how Christians are different from non-Christians, because even how Charlie Kirk's wife was able to forgive the man that killed her husband is not because, it is because, that's what we're taught to forgive. But I think she also sees the spiritual realm of it, that yes, he was used as a tool, the one that shot the gun, but it's just the evil in the world that's taken over, and we have to be proactive in not allowing that to happen in our lives. And I feel like the way for Bo and me to do that is to constantly keep God at the forefront of our marriage now, and keep God at the forefront of our conversations that we have. And this past week, our conversations have just been different. I can't even explain it.
I agree. So before we go on about kind of where we go from here, I want to take a time out from what we've been talking about and catch you up on kind of some of the stuff that's happened between our last podcast and now. Like I said, we left off where we just had a lot of stuff going on, and we didn't make it a priority. We still have just as much stuff going on, but we're going to make it a priority to kind of do this. But since then, we've become grandparents. Since then, I mean, just a lot of different stuff has kind of worked. And so I'm thinking along the lines of we say it's kind of this Charlie Kirk thing that kind of got this started, but for me, it also might have been a little bit about this new addition to our lives, and just the idea that I've always heard people say when we had little kids, and I used to just say, God, if you could just get me past this and get me to where they're grown and gone, life will be a lot better. And people used to tell me all the time, quit saying that because you're going to regret it. And then people also will say, when you start having grandkids, life takes on a different meaning. And so I was talking to Dangle, my brother, for those of you that don't know, but I was talking to Dangle the other day, and I said, I don't know, I don't understand this, but the idea that our little grandson is in this world now, and like, I don't know him like I know my kids. I don't know him like I know you. I don't know him like I know any of the other families. But all of a sudden there's this, like, I have this desire to be the type of grandfather that he comes to, and all my grandkids when we have grandkids, but I have this desire now to be the guy, the man that they come to for. I feel like I missed it with our kids. Like, I feel like I was too concerned about what my parents or your parents thought about how we raised our kids. So I did a lot of stuff with our kids that I probably wouldn't normally have done, but I just thought that was the right way to be a parent. And now I'm ready to just take this grandparent role and just be the leader that I should have been with our kids, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So that's happened. But like I said, from here on out, I think we also kind of had the thought that our past podcasts and things that we were doing for the channel didn't really have any kind of true call to action or anything. Heather and I sit around and tell stories all the time about when we first got married or when the kids were first born, or just, we have stories and that we tell all the time. And that was the idea for the podcast. We want to just sit back and tell some of these stories because a lot of you have lived these stories with us. And so the few of you that listen, these are stories that you remember as well. So that was kind of the idea. But now I just think there's so much more that we need to be doing. And so from here on out, I think all of our podcasts, all of our videos, everything, we want there to be some kind of call to action, even if that call to action is just to think about what's going on. Think about where you are. Think about, like, for instance, this whole thing has come up because God has kind of spoken to both of us, and we decided to do something with it. And so I think my challenge for you that are listening is sit down and listen and see if God has something in store for you. It took us 10 years to realize that God was telling us, be the missionaries through video and through podcasts, and be the missionaries to people the way that you know how to do it. So it took us 10 years to realize that. So if I can help save you 10 years, like, sit down and see if God is telling you anything different than what you normally would think of, if that makes any sense.
Well, and the thing that really has been resonating in my mind over the last few months is I was more worried about what people would say or think about me than what God would. And some of the things that I've been watching and listening to the last few weeks, people are just saying over and over again, what's more important, what God thinks. Not that God can love me any more or less, but what's more important is doing what I know that the Lord's calling me to do, or being afraid that somebody might not like what I say or make fun of me or leave negative comments. Because I'll be honest, the reason I don't get on TikTok much or make TikToks very often is because people can just be so mean and rude with their comments. And I don't like to have, I take things I used to, I'm getting a lot better, but I used to take negative or yucky feedback personally. And I think I'm in a place where if I post something that somebody doesn't agree with or like, and they say something gross, I can just look beyond that. Like, I don't have to comment on it. I can just keep going, and it won't hurt my spirit as much as it used to. And so I think that's something that I had to get past. And I've gotten even to where if I watch a video that I really agree with, I do not click on the comments because, people are mean and they're hateful, and that's on them and not me. So
yeah, there's definitely this type of society we live in, especially this social media type society, where people don't know how to go on to your page, see something that they disagree with, and people don't know how to just keep scrolling. They feel like they have to leave some kind of comment, and the crappier the comment they can leave, I guess the better they feel about themselves. At least that's what it seems like. So,
well, and that's something else that we both have done. I did it a while back just for my own mental health. Is I've limited my time on Facebook to an hour. I have my little timer set. When I've been on Facebook for an hour a day, it warns me and kicks me off. And Bo has gotten to where recently he, you took it off your phone. What did you do? You took it off your phone,
so
or
I took it off my phone because I was getting to where I would spend hours just scrolling. But I am very much interested in telling stories, and I feel like the storytelling aspect of all of this is important. I am definitely not interested anymore in arguing, and I have a point. I have a story. If you like it, fine. If you don't, keep scrolling, I guess. I don't know. But so I took it off my phone for that reason, because I was getting where I was spending more time just arguing or discussing or whatever you want to call it with people about little points that didn't really matter. And so I decided that what I was just going to do is once or twice a day get on Facebook from my computer and do my checking or whatever. And what I found, I really thought I was going to miss it. I've tried this before, and I've taken it off my phone, and within 2 days I've put it back on my phone. But this has just been so refreshing. And as a matter of fact, more often than not, I will go to Facebook as soon as I log on and I see the first 2 or 3 posts that are still 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, they're about the same thing, picking sides over Charlie Kirk or Jimmy Kimmel or whatever it is. I just look at it, I close it down, and I move about my day. And I don't miss it right now. I don't miss it at all. And I do know there are good things about social media, but it helps people that want to keep up with your life. It helps them. It helps in that way. And then it helps you promote things like if we're going to promote this podcast or promote the videos, it does help with all that stuff. But to me, it's getting to where the older I get, the negative is far outweighing the positive. Mm-hmm. And so I'll use it for what I need to use it for. But as far as it's been almost 2 weeks now, and I've probably looked at Facebook a total of 5 minutes in 2 weeks, and my life is so much better.
Yeah. I'm proud of you for that.
Oh, thanks.
Because he was on Facebook like all the time, and I knew it was because he was doing his bourbon posts and this and that, but he really, and I mean, I feel like you're more present, and you actually, by you doing that, it's challenged me to stay off of my phone even more. So,
well, that's where we are. That's where we're headed. So hopefully, in the next couple of weeks, we'll start establishing a more of a consistent.
And one more thing. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
We are both working on our prayer life, because some of you may know this that know me. I have struggled for a long time about prayer, because back in '98 when my dad got really, really sick, and we prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed that he would make it. Of course, he died the next day, or he died that weekend. And I mean, I have never prayed so hard for anything in my life. And I got really frustrated and mad at God. And over time, I got over the frustration and being angry. But I still always just thought, what's the point in praying? Praying is more for me than God, that God's going to do what he's going to do. I bought books on prayer, which, by the way, Before Amen by Max Lucado is a really good book to read about prayer. Philip Yancey has a really good book on prayer. And I've read all these books or whatever. And so I think in the last few months, God's kind of bringing me back around to where, not that prayer can change his mind, but I do need to get back to praying and encouraging people through prayer. So I said all that to say, if there's something that you all are going through that you need extra prayer or whatever, Bo and I are going to start, we're going to try to do it every day, but with our work schedules, it may not happen every day, to pray together for you all as well as for ourselves. So if you want to put in the comments, or if it's too personal to put in the comments, you can message us. And yeah, we would love to pray for you or with you, or whatever. So, and we would never share anything that you told us unless you gave us permission to. So, that's all I had to say about that. My man's over there working on something.
No, I was just looking at my notes.
Oh.
So yeah, well, that's it. And I guess without all that being said, that's where we are. That's where we're headed. And so before we check out, my challenge to you this week is to ask God to show you where he's already working in your life. Even if you haven't noticed it yet or noticed the direction, ask God to show you where he's moving in your life.
And let us know below what your God winks are. Start consciously every day looking for things that, and it could be simple. Like the other day, I was thankful that the Lord brought me through. Like I was going to go somewhere in the afternoon. I decided to go in the morning. And when I was heading back, what would have been the time I was going to something, the traffic was awful because there had been a really bad wreck. So I just see that as, I was prompted to go earlier, and I'm glad that I did, or I would have been stuck in traffic for 3 hours. So just, little God winks like that. They're everywhere. Just look for them and share them with us if you don't mind.
Yeah, real quick, my God wink is that every time Heather and I are out.
Did you get my text today?
No, I did not.
I got the first spot.
Every time we're out, every time I'm out, really, God just opens up the first spot. And it never happens really for Heather, except when she's with me. So.
That is not true. I went to Walmart today and they were so busy. I've never seen the Walmart this busy. And I got the very first not handicapped spot.
I was thinking about that.
No, you were not. You were thinking about the internet being down.
Maybe. All right. Well, that's it. So.
Love you.
Love you all. Love you. That's it for today's episode of Loving Our 25 to Life. We hope you enjoyed the conversation and found something to take with you on your own journey.
Remember, love is an adventure. Sometimes it's wild, sometimes it's calm, but it's always worth it.
Yes!
If you've enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share with someone who might need a little inspiration.
And don't forget to follow along for more episodes and vlogs documenting our travels, life lessons, and hopefully plenty of laughs.
Thanks for joining us. Until next time, keep loving life because it is the greatest adventure of all. Bye for now.